Hey guys, this is Juno and welcome back to another Summoners War video. So we have the 10 years of Hall of Heroes event. Sadly, I did not talk about the first one, the first week, because this is going up the second week. And I've got a message from one of my past Patreon and he wanted me to talk about these Hall of Heroes stuff and what people should go for, because apparently there are still a lot of people that are asking questions. Now, the first week, I hope you guys got what you guys wanted. For a very long time, I wanted Luna, which is the Dark Period. You can see that's new. So I did work on this dungeon. But for early game players, I don't know if this will be the best option for you, especially if you guys don't have all of these units right here. Now, when I look at these units, I'm not just talking about it in the sense where you're picking out the Fire Nine-Tailed Fox, the Water Rakshasa, the Wind Undine, the Light Ninja, or the Dark Period. You have to take into account of their counterparts in the family, because technically some of these will not be useful, but there will be a member in the family that you will want to skill up. So taking that into account, I'll be talking about these options every week for the next 24 weeks and try to help you guys pick the correct units that you guys want. And we'll look at the second week. So the second week is Kung Fu Girl, the fire one, the water vampire, the Wind Sylphid, the Light Succubus, and the Dark Phantom Thief. Kung Fu Girl. I think the Kung Fu Girl is a decent pick, but it is one of those units that you're probably not going to use if you build it as is. So what I'm saying is that you'll probably use it as a skill up for a counterpart. There are some decent units in this family. Actually, everything other than the fire one is very decent. The wind one is strictly for PvE. I'm pretty sure it's for the Steel Fortress dungeon. The water Kung Fu Girl is used in R5 for early game players because her skill 3, I believe, does more damage per debuffs. And then the light one, the Liu Mei, is used a lot in Siege. Yes, you see it less of it in G3, but still, it's a very good unit, offensive, defensive unit. Well, more of a defensive unit that you could use for Siege defense. In the lower guilds, I do think that she is a good unit. And then finally, there's the Dark Kung Fu Girl, which is also used in a lot of places. You could use her for Rift Raid, even RTA for Cleaves, and also R5 as well. Because of those 4 options, I do think that the Fire Kung Fu Girl is a decent option. The last thing you have to really check is if it's a unit that you could craft. And if it is, then you probably don't want to go with it. Okay, so the Ling Ling, the Wind Kung Fu Girl, is craftable. So is the Kung Fu Girl the right choice? Probably not. For early game players, if you guys didn't know this, there are a set number of units that you can craft. Probably you guys all know because it's advertised in the beginning because you want to build like Vera and stuff. But because you can make the Ling Ling, the Wind Kung Fu Girl, I will not go for the Fire Kung Fu Girl. The Fire Kung Fu Girl by itself probably is used the least out of the entire family. Okay, let's go on to the Water Vampire. First, talk about Water Vampire itself. So Water Vampire got a buff, few balance patches back, and it became a pretty nice unit to use offensively. I have seen it a couple times in Siege defense, probably part of a Clara Cleave in a Nat 4 tower, because skill 3, AoE defense breaks, and also pushbacks. So I think all of that together is very, very good. Definitely a strong, hard counter against fire units in RTA because it will always crit as well. So for people that never pulled the Water Vampire, it could be a good pick. However, if you want the Vampire just to skill up other vampires, probably not the best choice because again, the counterpart, the Fire Vampire Vertihill, is craftable. So you could build the Verd to skill up whichever vampire that you have. So if you're not specifically going for the Water Vampire, then there's no reason for you to pick it out. But if you don't have the Water Vampire and you're searching for a fire counter, Siege defensive unit that you could use in a Cleave, that you can use it for RTA, then I think Water Vampire is a extremely decent unit. You still see it to this day. Even in the recent RTA videos that Sean B put out, I think there are snippets of him using the Water Vampire, which is Liesel, I believe. Okay, Wind Sylphid. Wind Sylphid, man. It's a decent healer, to be fair. It is one of the units here that you can't craft. So there is no fusion of the counterparts. Wind Sylphid by itself Is it usable? I have seen it a little in Toa Hell. For people that wanted a specific buff team for the Bulwark team, I have seen people use Sylphid. But are there better replacements? I do think so. I do think there are better replacements. Let's talk about the other counterparts. Do you see the water one being used? Rarely, barely. Do you see the fire one being used? Yes, but it's a case where you never need the skill ups. For example, for R5, you use it as a 4-star awakened, probably with fight sets, and it will die first turn. You don't have to skill it up because you are only going to use the passive ones anyways. For arena defense, okay, yes, you could make it a 6-star, you could skill it up. It's for a stall defense, right? Will you need that as an early game player? Probably not. And if you go into late game, you definitely have the chances to pull more Sylphids. The Dark one though has a lot of uses in RTA. Even in Siege, you could use it in a Siege offensive way. Definitely not a defense, but in Siege offensive way, I do think it's a good cleave unit. For RTA, you see Obaba use it a lot. Definitely a good sniping unit. So if you're looking for skill ups for that unit, I do think this will be a good pick. But other than that, I really don't think you should pick it out. Light Succubus. I have seen it in Siege defense paired with the Dark Cat. The Dark Fat Cat. I don't know what his name is. Freak. Plus one more, plus Clara. Yeah, Clara, Dark Fat Cat, and the Succubus. I forgot this girl's name too. So it's definitely used there. It's also used in RTA. I have met someone that brought it out. So you could use it for Siege defense if you have the units that pair up with her, Clara and also Bombay. It was pretty decent. It worked pretty well. It is outdated, so you're not going to see it much in G3. But again, we're talking more of a sense in early mid game. So you're probably in a G1 guild or lower. And in that case, I think you just really need the units to draft that team. So I do think if you're just missing this unit, you could pull it out. Now, let's talk about the other counterparts. Fire one, I think is decent. I do recommend this to some people that want a reset in their arena offense team and they don't have Zeros. I don't like Chung Pung too much because it's a 1-turn reset, but the Fire one has a 2-turn reset. An AoE reset, guys, okay? So for people missing the Zeros, I do recommend the Fire Succubus, which is a Kia. And I believe Succubuses are also not fusionable, or are they? Oh, they are. The Fire one is fusionable. Okay, so then don't pull it out, actually, for skill up issues, because you could always fusion them up. But Fire one is decent. Water one, I believe, is also decent. I think the Water one is the one with the speed lead. And then the Dark one is the one that I don't see it being used too much. And also the Wind one, I don't see it being used too much. But like I said, if you're looking for skill ups, then there's no reason to pull this out. But if you want this unit specifically for Siege defense, maybe even offense, I say this a lot for early game players because I know that they're focusing some of their best runes to their defense. It is sometimes good to bring that in as an offense. So if you do bring it out, if you do bring out the Clara, Aria, Bombay as a defense, I do think you can use it in offense as well because it is an outspeeding comp. And once you do outspeed, once you get your CC in, then Bombay can start wreaking havoc because it ignores defense when they're all asleep. Succubus will be only a pick if you're missing that unit. Find the Phantom Thief. Now, Phantom Thief family is pretty nice. I think the worst one is definitely the Wind one that I barely see people use. And the Light one that I believe nobody uses. This is another unit that you can't fuse. So if you're looking for skill ups for the Water Phantom Thief, Lure, which has a very good skill 3. It's a AoE defense break that can't glance and it pushbacks. I think that's an awesome kit. So if you're looking for an AoE defense breaker, for example, let's say you don't have Galleon or you don't need Galleon because you have like Talisman or a self attack buff or an attack buff from a different unit, you might want to use Lure so you could get a AoE defense break plus a pushback to make your last unit move. Fire one is a very good damage dealer. I believe for some time Sean B showed that unit, showcased that unit doing immense damage against units that have more HP than him. I use it a lot probably in Rift Raid against the Wind Rift Raid, or I use it in the Monster Subjugation against the Slime. Dark one is also decent. I do see it a couple times in siege defense because of its passive, so it could work in a Nat 4 tower. Yes, it is not as good because it is RNG for that passive to proc, but I have seen it work, and I do think for early game players, early mid game players, due to the rune quality, maybe it is good for you guys to rely on some RNG. Yeah, those are my opinions on these units. Like I said, if you already have the Fire Kung Fu Girl, if you already have the Water Vampire, if you already have the Light Succubus, there's no reason for you guys to pull these units because you could fuse them. For the Sylphid, I think really you'll only need it if you have a Dark Sylphid that needs skill ups. And if that's not the case, don't pull it out. Phantom Thief, again, if you want maybe an offensive unit, it's great. Lure for arena offense, that's great because you can use it for skill ups. I think overall, my pick that's universally good will be the Dark Phantom Thief. But if you really need a siege defensive unit, I do think Arya is decent as well.